Previously on Legends of Aelos, as the party makes their way through the bustling morning streets, following Kazarak towards the keep to meet with the king, the five are kept abreast of recent developments in the world outside from the town crier. Of note, the southern port town of Riverend has become occupied by hostile forces, along with Lord Alfrin having been slain. Also rumored is that King Vath of Zehath, assumed inceptor of the current war with Eswind, has himself been slain as well. Though unconfirmed, purportedly it was assassination. Despite this, reports state that an army of thousands still marches towards the front lines from deep within Zehath. Though profound events all, the members are afforded only a momentary pause before a massive eagle swoops down from seemingly nowhere, scooping up Asher and hoisting the druid high into the air despite Rowan's best efforts to prevent it. Soon, the mysterious bird soars higher and faster as with each flap it seemingly blinks to its next location as it teleports westward. Asher sees the western settlements and structures of the far borders of Eswind as the eagle transports him over into Zehath, eventually taking him lower to view the encroaching army of thousands. And as Asher bears witness not only to their lack of regiment in their ranks, but a lack of proper soldiers as well, as all below seem to be nothing more than civilians, simple townsfolk, and peasants. The eagle returns Asher to the party, who then informs the five and company about what he had witnessed. It's here that Kazarak notices a bit more about just what the party is able to muster when the need or circumstance calls. Eventually, they make it to the bridge and are permitted entrance across after relinquishing their armaments, of course, save for Briar's trusty chopsticks, the concealed blowgun seated with an uncomfortable surprise for anyone unfortunate enough to be struck by its dart. After customary greetings, the king extends his openness to speak and desire to speak with Dominicus especially. But first, Rowan requests the royal family's endorsement for exemption from temple scrutiny about the Five's utilization of arcane arts. As they speak to the other current affairs, the topic of the army strikes the king as particularly interesting once Asher informs him about what he had been made to bear witness. With the ongoings in Zehath being the predominant subject matter, of course the topic of the now apparently widowed queen of Zehath and Dominicus's blood mother, Elizabeth, arises. The king laments on what had happened and why Dom's birth transpired as such, how King Vath came into power through arranged marriage, conveying the impression of a man whom had to do what was expected, even if it was not what he had wanted. Dom inquires as to the depth of his convictions, and in asking what Cantonius would have done had he known of Dominicus's conception then and there, the king confirms he would have acted, despite the impact it would have had politically. Though they both barely know one another, there is a level of trust that is established so much that the king invites Dom to attend the summit of the Eswindian Council of Lords as part of his personal consult. Following this, the rest of the party and company depart the study with Kazarak and leave Dominicus with the king, his blood father, and the two converse as one might expect a father and son whom had never met should, each learning about the other, as it appears they both try in earnest to forge a bond, however overdue it may be. As they talk, there is a knock upon the study door, as Kazarak escorts Belbeth and Coel into the study before departing again. Dom greets the queen and his half-sister, the princess, and in turn the two of them are brought to light on the relation as well as the story of what had happened all those years ago. The newly informed take a moment to process the scope of the information, and they all converse on how this could impact the geopolitical situation, considering the supposed passing of King Vath and Dominicus's blood ties to Zehathian royalty. Eventually the time comes for the summit, and those to be in attendance, Dominicus now included, must prepare. Dom is given robes not just for a more formal general appearance, but also to conceal his face. Representatives of the council attending include Lords Zuther, Lethian, and Basquin of Sirach, Lakegrasp, and Trevane, respectively. As well in attendance are Headmother Catherine and Headmaster Aiden of the Temple of Light and Order of Heroes in turn. With the council assembled in the Grand Hall, encompassed by an arcane Faraday cage formed from many layers of magical barriers of protection and nullification, the lords and organizational heads converse about the state of affairs amidst the continent. The war is obviously the focal point, but the crux is the justifications of action and what sways the council's hand in which direction. Basquin of Trevane represents the militaristic approach and presses for action, while Zahath is weaker on the front lines, lest more Aswindian lands fall to the same fate as Riverend, a notion backed by Lethian. Those less inclined to fight petition to see if Zahath would make peace, considering the reported recent death of their king. The mass of people marching eastward along the path to the Black Bridge, the landway towards Eswin, is where Basquin wants to head them off. But the king proposes the information that those marching could likely be merely peasants seeking refuge. The discourse begins to crescendo, as much of what is being discussed is based upon speculation, a majority of the intelligence needing confirmation. The recapture of Riverend is deemed appropriate unanimously. However, the land forces of Black Bridge are ordered to stand firm and hold their positions in Eswin. Though disapproved of by some, the decree of the king holds firm. There is chastised from Basquin on talks of peace and his opinion of absurdity at the notion of uniting the two sides of Telvernia. Eventually, the king firmly rebukes Basquin's asseverations when he mentions that trusting in his supported lost heir, sired between Cantonius and Elzabet, is absurd, and he does so by introducing Dominicus to them all as the now no longer lost son of the king. Though surprising to some and intriguing to others, Basquin still holds firm on his position, citing experience, something he critiques as lacking in Dominicus. The contention aside, all must acknowledge that the king now supports a son he fathered with the Queen of Zahath, and there is still the undeniable matter of action required at Riverend. With the degradation of discourse into squabbling from Basquin, the king calls for a close to the meeting. With the council's summit over, the attendees start to make their way out of the keep, some departing in a more cordial fashion than others. Regardless of opinion, one undeniable fact is that Dom is now formally acknowledged as bloodkin to the king, and the party will have to be all the more cautious around those they encounter. As the party discusses their next steps, they make their way out to the main entrance, and while awaiting the bridge, they see Aiden already on the other side, speaking with his son, Asher. As the bridge extends to meet them, the five witness as the blade of Asher Asterion extends out the back of his father before he removes it and turns away, walking from his father as Aiden falls lifelessly to the ground. And it is from here we shall continue the story of the Legends of Aelos.